3 lessons from the life of Helen Elfert. The first lesson, the real thing is right here and right now. This is the best part of your life. Esther Duvall, the wonderful English writer and mystic, says that Benedictine spirituality can be summed up in one sentence, and that sentence is, God is not elsewhere. Richard Rohr tells a similar story of being in a retreat and running into a hermit and assuming the hermit is going to not want to talk to him because hermits don't want to talk to people, and this hermit is in fact in a very un-hermit-like mood and runs up to Richard in a state of excited agitation and says, Richard, you have to tell people God is not up there. And Kent Hoffman says something very similar about catching a glimpse of the divine, about catching a glimpse of God. He says, it's nothing special. The numinous, the holy, the joy, these things are found in the everyday. And maybe this is a frustrating or exasperating piece of wisdom for those of us who are holding out for an angel descending on a cloud. But I want to suggest that it is also liberating because it means that, well, the good stuff is right here. And Helen Elfert, it seems to me, knew this deeply. She had a deep capacity to find joy and simple joy in the everyday. It's not to say that she didn't delight in extraordinary things. She certainly did. She had a very special memory of winning an all-expenses-paid trip for 2 to New York and taking her beloved mother with her. This is when Mom was quite young. I don't know if Mom had been to New York before. And I'm not sure if it was the same trip or not, that when Mom went to see Leonard Cohen read poems in New York. And as only Helen Elfert would do, Leonard Cohen just wouldn't stop reading poems. It was getting on towards midnight, and so Mom walked out. So you are at the remembrance of someone who's not merely seen Leonard Cohen in the 60s. How many people would pay huge money for that? But has walked out on Leonard Cohen in the 60s. This was a special experience for her. Similarly, she had these extraordinary experiences of touring Europe with her gay boyfriends, all of whom were so good at dancing. Of course they were. And she had such special times traveling the world with my father, with Frank, after his retirement. So certainly she delighted in extraordinary things, but she also loved everyday stuff and found joy in everyday stuff. She said that when she was working on the ward as a nurse, that she and her colleagues just lived for people coming in with stuff lost up their bottoms. She said it was just the greatest thing ever when that happened. And similarly, when she was working at Calgary Children's Hospital, at the opposite end of the gastrointestinal tract, they loved it when children came in with having swallowed toys. And apparently the lore was there was actually a trophy wall at the hospital of things that they had taken out of children's stomachs. The deal was, if you have to come in and we have to take the car out of your stomach, you can't have it back. Mom loved stuff like that, and we could just add to the list. Loved swimming in the ocean, loved going for walks with Frank, loved reading, loved sitting in her backyard, watching the birds and eating cookies. She was someone who delighted in treats. We're going to share some treats together later. She had this kind of deep okayness a lot of the time. Not always. I don't want to paint a picture of someone who was never anxious or sad or upset or stuck. She was a human being, of course she was. But most of the time, this wasn't part of her life. She was content. I was telling someone about Mom recently, and they said, oh, it sounds like your mother didn't compare herself to other people. That's why she was joyous. And I thought about that for a little while, and I thought, that sort of gets at it, but I actually don't think that's true. Mom totally did compare herself to other people. The world, as far as she was concerned, was filled with dorks. This was a turn of phrase she learned from me in the 1980s and just embraced with gusto. To drive with her was to hear about all of the dorks on the road. She told me very often that she was glad I didn't grow up to be a dud, unlike some other people's kids. So there certainly was a comparison that was taking place, but it wasn't the final test of what was good or joyful in her life. That came from somewhere else, somewhere deeper. This well of contentment came from some deep foundation laid in my folks' marriage, and how amazing that they were both of what the old prayer book would call it riper years. When they got married, Dad was over 40 when they got married. They still got to be married for 50 years. And late in their marriage, Mom said to me what is either the least or the most romantic thing I've ever heard said about another person. She said to me, I'm not madly in love with your father, but if he wasn't rattling around the house, I would miss him. And I think actually on reflection, that might be the most romantic thing I have ever heard. This joy in the everyday. Life is so daily, she would say often. So what we need is here. The good part is right now. This is the best part of your life. God is not elsewhere. The second lesson of Mom's life, showing up is what matters. So when I was in kindergarten or grade 1, I don't remember anymore, I was attending a daycare after school, and there was, for some reason, scheduled to be a study or experiment that was going to take place several weeks in the future at the daycare. And in retrospect, I imagine that one of the daycare staff had a friend who was doing master's or doctoral studies and needed children to, an experiment he would do with a child, see whether or not they're going to eat that cookie, right, over 5 minutes or something like that. And I said I would participate, but when the day came of the experiment, I didn't want to do it anymore. Who knows why? In my 5-year-old way, I got nervous, or I don't know. I said I don't want to do it. And the person doing the experiment accepted this, but one of the staff people at the daycare, perhaps the friend who had invited her graduate friend to do this study there in the first place, gave me quite a bit of grief about this. You said you were going to do it. It's important to honor the promises you've made. It was wrong to say you're going to do something and then not do it. And I felt ashamed. And I told Mom about this, and Mom was having none of the staff person's behavior, and I think spoke with some intensity to the staff person. She may not have used the word dork, it may have been before then, but the sentiment was certainly there. And I learned thereafter that incident for many years thereafter became an illustration in her class when she was teaching students about ethics, that informed consent is predicated on one of the core ideas of informed consent is that a participant in a study can withdraw their consent at any time for any or no reason. That's a thing you're just allowed to do. It was a formidable thing to have Helen Elfert in your corner. And I think a number of you know that from your work with her, from being colleagues or being taught by her. I think in that moment of showing up for me, Mom was reciprocating something that she had received in many ways in her own life. A real hinge moment in her life came as a very young adult, maybe Miriam, when she was your age now, when she was about 18, and she had the opportunity to go away to nursery school, and her father thought it was a mistake. And her dad wanted her to remain in Waterloo and work at the factory where there was steady work. Shaped by the Depression, the highest praise my grandfather could give to a job without steady. And her mom's own mother, my grandmother, showed up for her and advocated for her and said, actually, I think it's okay. I think it's okay if Helen goes away to nursery school. And her mother prevailed in that argument, and the adventure began that saw Mom going to Calgary, to McGill, to New York, and then eventually to Vancouver. This adventure that changed so many things for her and so many things for other people. There's so many ways that she showed up for so many folks, in these big ways, but also at every graduation, every special occasion, every birthday, every choral event. She was there in the not quite 2 years that she lived at Purdue Pavilion. I think there's many ways in which she became beloved, in significant part because she showed up for stuff. If there was a bingo game or a trivia night or who knows what other activity, she would show up. That feels like a big deal to me. It's the second lesson of her life. And a third lesson that I'd like to share is none of our time on this earth is superfluous. So my teacher, Herbert Anderson, says that when you go to an occasion like this one and there are photographs of the deceased, the thing he's noticed is what is frequently missing are photographs from the time of the deceased's decline. So there's photographs of them perhaps as a young person, perhaps in the middle of their career, perhaps on some amazing trip, but their aging and their death is sort of unmentionable in photographic form. And Herbert has wondered, does the absence of this, of speaking about this and showing images of this time, suggest that this is sort of an unimportant or an embarrassing time in our lives when we are aging and dying? For Mom, something I witnessed in the last 18 or 24 months of her life was this time of decline was very important indeed. Two things pop into mind for me. The first is that for as long as I can remember, Mom told a story about growing up, and my guess is she was 14 in this story, a little bit older, a little bit younger, who knows. And she's walking down the street with a friend, and her father approached from behind on a bicycle. And he said to her, I was looking at those pair of people walking, and I was looking in particular at this one person, and I said, who is that girl with that great big wide bottom? And then I came up, and what do you know? It was my daughter. And then Mom, after telling this story without a coda, but it didn't bother me. And perhaps, I don't know, let's guess 18 months, 20 months before her death, she told this story to Sue, to my mother-in-law, and Sue wonderfully said, Helen, I think that bothered you very much indeed. I think what your father said bothered you very much indeed. And I don't think Mom ever told that story again. I think that Sue naming for her how painful and stupid and hurtful her father's words had been all those years ago allowed her to do some kind of healing. None of our time in this life is superfluous. Similarly, when it was clear that Mum was actively dying, she picked an incredibly poetic time to approach the end of her life. Had she died on December 18th, she would have died 2 years to the day after my father. Had she died on December 20th, she would have duplicated the spacing between their birthdays. She decided to die on December 21st, the solstice, the day when there's the least amount of light, the day when the light starts coming back. Beautiful. And she had sung in the choir at Purdy because it's Christmas time. They were singing Christmas hymns, and as Mom lay in her deathbed, there, perhaps inspired by Herbert's photograph of that moment, the resident choir came by and they sang Silent Night to her. And what they reported was Mom was past talking at this point, but her lips moved along with the words. What an amazing thing. None of our time in this life is superfluous. So 3 lessons, and there's more. We could share more downstairs when we tell some stories and share some treats, but 3 lessons from the life of Helen Elfert. The good part is here. Showing up is what matters, and none of our time on this earth is superfluous. Mom didn't specify a lot about what she wanted this occasion to be. We got to make our own decisions about what the rep was going to be. We knew that we wanted some old-timey favorites. She loved that genre of music that we've heard today that we're going to hear later on. We knew there had to be at least one AM radio classic that populated her kitchen for so long. We're going to hear from Gordon Lightfoot in a second. The one thing she specified, Judy said this already, that had to be in the program, it had to be good. It's complete. And look, maybe she wanted it because it was funny. And it kind of is. But I think there also, I think there is a depth or another layer to it. Everybody's life ends. Some of us get lives that are complete. And I think Mom had a life that was complete, and I think she loved the people she was supposed to love. She did the things she was supposed to do. She said yes to this life, yes to friends, yes to adventure, to learning, to teaching, to generosity, to so many other things. I frame these lessons as 3 different things. The real thing is here, show up. None of our life is superfluous, but maybe they're actually all really one thing, which Travis named in the poem. They're about being a bridegroom to amazement, about being married to wonder. What a good life Helen Elfert led. Thank you all for being part of it in different ways. I know that she loved you, and I know she loves you still. Jackie Monroe, who's living in Mom's house, shared with me this morning, with Phoebe and me this morning, that she still hears the voice of my folks sometimes in the house, which is a beautiful thing. I love the idea that they're still hanging around and still chatting. The church has long held that an occasion like this is about resurrection. And resurrection is this mystery that happens to Jesus. The women go to the tomb and they find it empty. Death proves to be something that God has conquered. It's a mystery that Mom is participating in right now, reunited with her own beloved mother and with so many friends. I don't know what heaven is like, but I like to think it's maybe like a party at Beth McCann's house. I have such fond memories of those Christmases. But resurrection is also something you're invited to participate in. Wendell Berry says at the end of one of his poems, practice resurrection. So if you like, I invite you to practice some of the lessons from Helen Elfert's life The good part of your life, the real thing, is here right now. Show up. My friend Bill, when he died, had one of my absolute favorite things I've ever seen in an obituary. It was a very brief obituary. And it said, in lieu of flowers, please take a friend out for dessert. In this time of deep loneliness, give someone a call you've been wondering about. And none of our time on our life is superfluous. May we be bridegrooms to amazement. Thanks be to God for the life of Helen Elfert. May she rest in peace and rise with Christ in glory.